One of the things that's established pretty well in Warhammer lore is that the blessings of the Dark Gods can be a curse as well. In fact, more often than not they are. And the curse that I have as being a devotee to the ruinous powers is that every time I see anything that looks great in the Space Marine range, well, I think of ways to try and corrupt it. And with the relatively recent launch of the brand new Horus Heresy box set Saturnine, the moment I saw the Centurion in MkII Power Armour, I just knew that this would form the basis for a brand new Chaos Lord. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking through the parts that I've used to convert this chap into my brand new Chaos Lord. I'm going to also be talking through the things that I thought went well, the bits that I perhaps would do slightly differently, things to watch out for. But I'll also be discussing what colours I've used for the paint scheme for any of you who might be interested. By no stretch of the imagination am I the best painter or sculptor in the world, but hopefully this video gives you some great ideas that you can use for your own kitbashes. But without further ado, let's take a closer look at the model. So ladies and gentlemen, here it is. My Saturnine Centurion, which I have converted into a Chaos Lord. Now this conversion was relatively simple. If you're familiar with the box art, you'll notice that there's not too much that's changed here. I've given him a power fist, which you'll be able to see. That was probably one of the most difficult parts to work with, but I'll get into the details around that as well. You'll also notice that I chopped off the banner that you would normally get at the top and added this much better chaos iconography. And aside from that, there's not really all that much that has been changed about this model. The base for it is very, very cool. Now, in terms of the difficulties I ran into with this, mounting that on the top of the backpack was actually fairly difficult. Trying to get it all lined up and filed down and flattened down well enough that it would stick without coming off was a bit of a challenge, but we got there in the end, and I'm fairly happy with how it's turned out. I'll just show you from the back there how that looks, and that all looks just fine to me. But the biggest issue I actually ran into with this conversion was using a different arm on this side, the power fist. The difficulty here is that the way the model is built, it is built so that the arms line up perfectly with the body, which also means that the back of the cape lines up perfectly as well. And as you can see here, that didn't quite go to plan. And as someone who likes to work in sub-assemblies, especially for singular models such as this, that becomes a bit of a challenge. Now, obviously, if you're not working in sub-assemblies, you could always use a little bit of green stuff to fill in those gaps and you'll have less of a problem. But it is something to be aware of if you're looking to change the arm out and make this a somewhat more believable 40k Chaos Lord. Alternatively, you could look to swap those shoulder pads out and cut off the back of the cape, and then obviously just use a bit of green stuff to mould it up, but that for me just isn't going to work. We're not putting that much effort in. Otherwise, the arms just about line up. There is a slight bit of a gap here, which you can see, but overall it looks okay. You know, for the tabletop, from the front, I'm fairly happy with it overall. I also didn't add the little medallion things that you get that are supposed to go on here as well. They just kept falling off. They were a nightmare to try and put on. Maybe I've used tweezers, but these sausage fingers said no, so I decided not to press ahead with those and just leave them off, and frankly, it looks absolutely fine. Now, in terms of the colours used, this is for a Black Legion army that I have, and I don't like to use a standard black, so I decided to go with this here. Dark Star Steel. This is a wonderful bit of paint. Again, it's a metallic. There's lots of metallics going on here, which means it can be a little bit challenging, a little bit soul-destroying at times to go ahead with all of these metallics, but here we are. And this was inspired by Brushstroke. If you've not seen him, highly recommend go check out his channel. He did a Black Legion Terminator a good few years ago at this point, and that's what made me decide that I wanted to do my entire army that way. Terrible decision, but here we are. It does look brilliant though when they're all lined up. And what's really cool about this is under some lights it'll look more like black, and under others it'll just look like a dark silver, which is probably what it looks more like on the camera now. So we use that Dark Star Steel and we shade over it with Nuln Oil, the pretty standard get out of jail card in tabletop miniature painting. For the golds, we use Vallejo Old Gold. I've started using this one recently. I think it's a slightly different formula to the one you get with the white label, which I have here. Don't destroy the model on the way through. But largely, it looks okay. And again, the colour codes match up, but they do look slightly different. And I actually think that this one looks a little bit nicer. I guess it's a new formula that they're using for the same thing. We then shade that down with Seraphim Sepia, and we do highlights with the wonderful Liberator Gold. In terms of all the silvers, I'm using Ironbreaker for those, and then highlighting up with Stormhost Silver after I've applied some Nuln Oil. The red is a really cool one here from Scale 75. Let's take a look. So that's just this cape around here. We've used Scale 75 deep red for that. Again, the coverage on this can be a little bit not amazing, so you do need a few layers to get it up to that kind of bold, probably 3 or 4 sometimes I've found, but it does look wonderful when it's done. And then again, we went over the cape in Nuln Oil before touching up with a bit of Black Legion that I sort of dabbed on there to give it that sort of dirty look around the bottom. And the same on the inside there as well. Colour-wise, I don't think there's much more to touch on. If you are after any of those paints, there are links down in the description, which will allow you to grab those from one of my affiliate links. They will give me a kickback, but it's no extra cost to you and it helps support the channel. I suppose on a final note, we did do the flesh on the head with Guilliman Flesh, and the skills were done in Skeleton Horde and then dry brushed over with some wonderful Pallid Witch chalk. As we know, goes lovely and chunky. Yeah, not too much else to touch on here. I just thought I'd share this in case anyone is interested in making their own one of these. This might give you some ideas of things that you might be able to do to make yours look great. And of course, a little bit of word of a warning around that arm if you're looking to replace it. But anyway, viewers, that's all from me today. Thank you. Nice, short and sweet. It's not my traditional type of content, although you will see plenty of Warhammer shorts in future. They're definitely not going anywhere. But if you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, especially Kitbashes, and I have a few in mind, then definitely keep on at it. Let me know down in the comments and make sure you hit that big subscribe button. Once again, thanks again for coming along. I do appreciate you being here, and I will see you in the next one.